even though we went over a bunch of stuff, we have a few things that we left out, not intentionally. These things are still very important, but these are things that you will see, maybe not as frequently, but you should understand.
So if you really want to get into this and be overly vigilant about studying this stuff, a lot of these phrases that we say in here, you don't necessarily have to know, but these are good things to look up. You know,
right.
If you really kind of want a well-versed domain of what's out there.
Like, for example, if you start taking your web development seriously, you better know Ajax.
Yeah,
like you have,
absolutely.
You know, unless you're doing rinky-dink HTML pages where somebody signs up and they get emails or something, you know, Ajax is a way of basically getting real live content on a website. It transmits a website from a client-server relationship to behave more like an application on your computer.
One of the most popular original examples of Ajax was Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
So as you drag the map around, you're getting the new content as a result of your action without the page having to refresh or repost.
Right.
So that was an earlier form of Ajax. But now Ajax is everywhere. You would probably not be often to find a web page without it.
Absolutely. You're right. And any legitimate website implements Ajax. Yeah. And there is a protocol called SOAP, a Simple Object Access Protocol. This is not a programming language at all. It's an XML implementation of a message structure that is commonly used in things like Ajax, but also in web services.
So the content that gets passed back and forth between the browser and the server, or the content that gets retrieved from a web service, is usually in a SOAP format.
SOAP envelope is what they call it. So it's important that you don't have to know. I mean, it's rare that someone's going to say, write a program that makes a SOAP envelope, because most web service type software will create the envelope and do all that.
And a lot of frameworks will make this implementation very easy.
But if you're in a situation where you come across a piece of software that's crashing or failing, and it's a web service, take a look at the SOAP request that you're getting. Maybe there's some malformed data.
And if nothing else, the concept is crucially important to understand.
Yeah.
Next is the Unix shell, which is command line interpreter executing shell commands. These a Unix shell script is basically just the commands that you type into a Unix terminal, all written out in a text file and just executed one after the next.
It doesn't have to be a text file, but it can be a text file. You can actually just run it from the command line as well.
Absolutely.
Those of you Windows folks will probably be familiar with batch scripting.
Yeah.
It's sort of similar to that.
A human is probably the most common Unix shell script. Then there's Python. Python is sometimes similarly used in the way Perl is. Python's often used for quick development of math applications. So if you're doing, some strange math algorithm, but you're not necessarily a developer, Python is commonly used. It's a multi-purpose scripting language. It does have a very clean-looking syntax. Some of the IDEs are very nice. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Ruby is a language that you usually don't see, but...
And you usually hear it called Ruby on Rails.
Ruby on Rails, yeah. It's a language that I believe it originated from Japan, if I'm not mistaken. It was inspired by Perl, Smalltalk, and Lisp. The design philosophy of this, and again, this is up to the developer's interpretation, but the design was to be more of a human language and less of a computer language. So it does pride itself on simple usage of data structures like objects and that sort of thing.
And it is an extremely elegant language.
Yeah, it is pretty.
Yeah, it is. And lastly is COBOL. COBOL is a earlier generation, older language.
It's from the 50s, I think.
Yeah. And it's still extremely common. It's common in mainframe software. A lot of high-risk industries will use software that's been versioned since the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. And the core infrastructure is still the same, because they can't take the risk of switching to a newer platform that could introduce bugs that are mission critical.
So, some risk-averse industries like healthcare, finance, that sort of thing, you do see mainframe software still in widespread use. And even though this stuff comes from the 60s and 70s, it is still very common.
Yeah, and it's very fast.
Now, you may not be developing in COBOL, but you may run into a situation where you come across COBOL code, and it's good to at least recognize what it is. Mm-hmm. These were just a couple things that we just wanted to kind of attach to the end of our programming languages.
So we hope you enjoyed this overview.
I don't. I hope you had a horrible time. No, I'm just kidding.
The stuff we went over in this is not critical for you to memorize all of it, or any of it.
Yeah.
But basically the names of the languages, how to pronounce the languages, some attributes of the language, you should at least start to get exposed to these.
Cool. So thank you very much, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Mhm.